Yes, people. Good to be back. Session 7. This might be your first time actually, tuning in. We might have some viewers that have tuned in already. But this is the Conversations with C&C podcast. I go by the name of Claude, or you can call me C. I'm here with the distinguished specialist, the lecturer, the doctor, the vernacular verbiage champion. Yes, sir, man.
Yes.
How we doing?
I'm good. My name is Carl. It's good to be with you guys once again. As you say, session 7. Wow. Wow. Perfect number, 7. So we're in the house once again, and just excited about today because today is it's the penultimate session. It's the penultimate one. So we're doing our thing. We have one more to go for the season. We've put our work in. We've recontracted. So we got more in store for the people. So it's positive, feeling positive and grateful and humbled as well. So
in the here and now, is that how you're feeling?
In the here and now. I can say a little bit more about that before we get a temperature check from you this week. Did this ethical dilemmas type of workshop with it was brief with the students and just getting them to look at their personal moral qualities attached to the ethical dilemmas that they would have come into contact with in their training thus far. And I'll tell you, I get them to draw a tree. Just keep it basic. Draw a tree, whatever kind of tree. Some said evergreen, a few said, oak trees and that sort of thing. So when you look at these 13 personal moral qualities, like, care, courage, candor, that ability to share with a client, things that may be harmful to them, that candor, the having some humility, integrity, wisdom, all of these things feed into your personal moral qualities that the governing body would like for you to embody. But, what do you come into this with? So got them to, where would you put that quality on the tree? Is it foundational? Is it in the roots? Are they in the body, in the trunk? Just firm, steadfast.
Can I just not a body in the trunk. We're not saying that there's a body in the trunk.
Yeah. Thanks for that. We want to be clear. Nobody's in the trunk.
Nobody's in the trunk.
Yeah. Oh, you took me back there. Flashbacks.
Sorry, sir. Sorry.
Yeah. So, and then outside on the limbs, on the branches, so to speak. So, humbled and grateful to be here once again to be able to share and hopefully share some wisdom, some sage, if you will. And
if you was a tree in the here and now, what tree would?
I like the evergreen myself because it doesn't change. It doesn't change. Yeah.
And I would say that's true from our interaction. From the first day to now, you've always remained the same.
Yeah.
How was it? Because I remember you said last session you were going to be meeting the students.
Yes.
What was that like, meeting them in person? And
it was powerful. It was even though it was an induction. Met 2 groups, met 3 groups actually. Two groups that I'll be leading on the seminars with, and the third group just having an opportunity to do skills with them and to do a personal professional development group with them. But it was good to meet the first 2 groups that I'm leading on, and I gave them an overview, and they're excited, enthusiastic, and all of that good stuff. But it's the thing is, I've become so comfortable within myself, that that sense of identity and knowing who I am. That it's just it was automatic. Just going into a group of 19, 20, and just dropping the track, if you will. Dropping the track on them. Yeah.
No, sounds good, man. Sounds good, Doc. And it's. I guess there's synergy, some synchronism, because this week, I was working with a team of people, and we had to, did some team building activities, forming, part of a brand new team, and we looked at the Tree of Life, exercise, and I know there are various different, ways to approach it in different models, and our exercise was really about the team getting to know each other. So your aspirations may be connected to the trunk, the ground, what kind of surface, soil, is your foundation like? Growing up, what was your foundation like? Right. And then at the end, it was what I really loved about it. Definitely, there was that art therapy kind of. I guess a lens on the activity because, we got, some ambient music playing in the background and then we got resources, flip chart paper, resources to design our tree and to put whatever we wanted. My tree was like an oak tree and then everything around it was full of life. And then you just kind of share, what makes you, the makings of me, I guess that's the Curtis Mayfield, right? Right. So where you can kind of tap into, key pivotal points in your life that kind of have formed your identity and maybe storms you've been through and, what was upbringing like, what are your aspirations, who are the key people in your life? So those were the leaves. What are some of the challenges and fears that you've worked through? And it was a powerful exercise because you got a group of a new team that don't really know each other, but are going to embark on a journey together, working with people in the community. And it was just a great chance of just sharing, no one was under duress where they had to share what they didn't want to share. It was just... And I think there's just something about that pit stop space where people were able to reflect and, these are some pivotal moments in my life and just feeling comfortable to share that. And I think that links in for me with what you said, just knowing who you are, no matter what room or audience or group you're in front of, you just know that I know who I am and I feel comfortable, and I think for me it was just, totally feeling comfortable to share what I shared. And it was a powerful experience for all of us because we got to learn, beneath the layers, beneath the iceberg, beneath the surface, a little bit about what makes us tick and what we've maybe worked through and what inspires us. And I think, that's transferable to outside, outside of that training space. You meet people and sometimes it's only when you spend a bit of time with them and you have dialogue, you sometimes realize, we may look different, but there are so much similarities. Yes. So it was powerful exercise. I'm feeling good in the here and now. As I was saying to you guys this morning, my son was like, who ate my chicken wings? And I'm like, it wasn't me. He's like, well, was it mommy? I'm like, no, I'm not involved. And he's like, Daddy, I think you ate them. And I think mommy ate them. It was a funny morning, moment. The treasure hunt of chicken wings.
Wow. It sounds like he had an existential crisis going on. Oh,
man. Andrea was like, Daddy, I need to look in your eyes. Are you telling the truth? Funny morning. But I'm feeling really just light and free, and chilled.
Okay,
and chilled.
It's good to hear. You're looking well.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you.
People can't see, but you're rocking the fresh trainers this morning and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Boy, trying to be like you, man. We try. But I think last session was, really, really powerful when we spoke
100.
about observations of a survivor and, trauma and triumph.
Yes.
And, there was something that you refer to in our conversation and our dialogue. It was the birth of hip hop.
Beautiful segue.
Yeah,
beautiful segue.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah,
and I think it just kind of our conversations was like music that has shaped us. And we're both avid music lovers. I have an eclectic taste.
Right. Okay.
So I like all sorts of music. But, this, I guess for this, session, it is looking at the music that shaped us throughout the years. But also, like, as we said, we touched on like a timeline last week, almost like a traumatic timeline that our people have kind of been through. And every kind of like struggle, there's always been a soundtrack.
Yes.
There's always been a soundtrack to whatever struggle is going on. And, whether that's from our own challenges, I guess.
Yeah.
But like as a people as wide, What's kind of what you thinking?
I'm thinking that I like the it's a beautiful segue from what we our check-in to what was discussed last week to what the session is about today. So right there, people, you can see that we're dealing with a skilled therapist, a skilled reflective practitioner who is dropping science. So we're going to drop some science today, and I think that from a historical point of view, and just so thinking about, here's a little bit of history that will be undertaken today, if you will, and just
bear
with us and stay with us because I think that as you rightly say, music lovers, 100%. Unfortunately, a brother can't sing and can't rap, so. That's not my forte. But as you mentioned, I am a lover of words, of and verbiage, as you mentioned. I do like to write. I do like to write prose or poems or short stories and that sort of thing. Put it together like that. But just thinking about the historical context that you mentioned, give us a snapshot. Because for the benefits of our listeners, because you gave me a snapshot earlier, and I love how you shared it. Yeah.
So I think, if we moonwalk back, music and sounds has always been, for us as Black people, it's always been important. Whether that is us being in a village, with our community, and the power of drums, and humming, and chanting, and that spiritual connection, singing from the soul and chanting from the soul. I was all thinking there was a, we are men of God, men, and I was all thinking of a passage. There was a passage in reference to David, and everyone knows about, I shouldn't assume, but David and Goliath, and he's, historical David, young boy, takes out the giant with a slingshot and so forth. But, what a lot of people may not understand, that David was a king, but how also he was a psalmist. So he wrote songs and poems, which you can find in the book of Psalms, right? So Psalms and him being a psalmist. And there was a time when he was, I guess, an understudy, a little boy, and you got the king at the time, called Saul, whose spirit, whose soul, whose heart, whose well-being was troubled. And David comes along and plays some music to bring some healing, so that music is very powerful. It can change the ambience of a room. It can change how we think and feel.
That's right.
And there is music set for various occasions. So certain songs get played, at a wedding, but when people are walking down the aisle, or sometimes people make love to certain music, or if you want to dance around, you might play a bit more up tempo. So music is powerful, and it's always been synonymous to us as a people. It's a way we communicate with one another and communicate messages. So you've got like the early village where we come together as a community, drums, sounds, chanting. And I just, was thinking about, Harriet Tubman, and, the runaway slaves and how Harriet, would communicate. And not just Harriet, but if we hone in on Harriet, how she would communicate with the slaves, our ancestors, if I'm going to use that term, our ancestors when they were fleeing, from the slave masters, and they would sing "Wade in the Water," and that song being so coded with messages. So if you were outside of, that group, you wouldn't understand what was really being said in the songs. So she would sing that song, and as the runaway slaves or runaway ancestors were running away from the slave masters in the fields, when she sang that song, it meant that, look, you need to find some water to get into, some wading, walking through. Because if you jump in the water, and the bloodhounds, the dogs, the mutilators will not find you. They will not smell your scent. So that was pivotal. So we have this powerful song that we sing now, but it's coded and coded and filled with a deeper message, a deeper meaning, and
that's powerful, brother.
That's powerful. And it made me think of, Billie Holiday, Strange Fruit, and the FBI, totally like trying to shut her down, and Strange Fruit. The Jim Crow era, Blood on the Leaves, her communicating, her singing a song about what was going on in that time. And, the FBI and people being so scared that, is this music going to rally up, not just protest, but like a turning of the tide.
Yes.
People wanting to hold on to that power, but realizing that this song and this musician is so powerful that this could change the landscape. And when people are hoggish for power, they don't want to relinquish that, right? So there's that fear. So we've got Strange Fruit, and I think I'm sure you would be able to, speak into that a bit more than me.
I think you've really captured it, quite well, and I know you're well versed in what that song symbolizes and what it would have meant to people even back then. And when you think can't really locate the exact year, but I want to say maybe late 30s to 40s. This song had such a resonance with the people that what was happening in that time, at that time, and historically, really, of the lynching that took part. From the we could say from Reconstruction, late 1800s into I think there were several hundreds if not thousands that took place up until the 30s, 40s, and 50s. It was still happening, not as plentiful, but it was still happening, and it was and I guess just there was something that I was just, watching clips last night, and it was a scene in Broadwalk Empire with the brother Michael Williams, who just passed recently.
Rest in peace.
He had a scene in there, and he had a wizard, one of those KKK dudes sitting in front of him, and he said. He told him a story about his dad, and he said his dad was a carpenter, and he was a hardworking man who loved his craft, and a white gentleman came to him and said that I want you to build something for me. So he took him to his house and showed him, the space. And he said, and he asked him, what do you think about this space? And he says, what this room needs is a bookcase. And he built him this the way that Michael Williams described it, it was a majestic bookcase with all kinds of detail, from the artwork of, can you imagine, carving into wood flowers and perhaps an animal or two, and just the workmanship was of a level that was unprecedented. And that's the first thing that you need. So as a boy, when his father took him into that room to show him that bookcase, he was just so amazed and proud of his dad, that his dad had produced this for this gentleman, this white gentleman. And the white gentleman was pleased as well. And I'm sure as a result of that, he would have told other people about this black carpenter. So as a result of that, Michael Williams says another gentleman came to him and says, yes, I've seen what you have done. I want you to do the same thing for me. And he says, all right, I can do that. I can do that. So he goes with this man to the edge of town, but there is nothing there. There are 6 other white gentlemen there, and they proceed to lynch him. And it was unspoken from the way that he told the story, but it was essentially because of his ability. Because of his, his skill set. It was something that was not received. It was not respected. It was something that was it was envied, and as a result of the envy, there was the jealousy, and then there was the hatred, and then you build your own picture from what transpired. But the thing is, it may be a fictional account, but a very real account of, you can see that this was something when you talk about Rosewood, when you talk, things that happened in Florida back in the day, the things that happened in Oklahoma, where you had black communities that were thriving, that were prosperous, that were exceeding what their counterparts were doing at that time. And they were razed to the ground as a result of that. So you just have to check your, the historical aspects of that too. Just put in, Rosewood, and as a result of Rosewood coming up, other links will come up that shows you the pattern of what transpired. So I've gone off a little bit,
not at all, sir.
But just thinking about, as a result of that song, as you intimate that strange fruit of black bodies swinging. And then, Hoover, who was the director of the FBI for decades, I think he was in power. He would have seen 6 or 7 presidents during his tenure, which tells you the power that the man had. But they didn't like that, that Billie Holiday she had a hand in writing it, as we discussed. I'm not sure that she was the sole author, but I think it was co-authored. But at the same time, we also understand that she had issues with substances, and they utilized that. I believe at the time she was trying to get some type of help. She was in a rehab, what we call a rehab today. I think back in the day it would have been a sanatorium or something like that, and they took her from that place and put her in prison as a result of that. And I think that dogged her life as a result of that. And I'm sure not long after she succumbed. But Strange Fruit, definitely part of the era of the time, and part of the that method, that movement and message that you stated earlier. And I think it was, for her traveling, because you just have to understand it is about understanding the time of these musicians going from small town to small town, leaving perhaps, New York and going south to reach the people, right? They would have encountered the racism that they would have encountered along those arduous trips, south to share the music of the time. And I believe it was through that process of seeing what was going on that inspired that particular piece of music. I think it was probably depicted in The Lady Sings the Blues with Diana Ross, if you've ever seen that.
Yes.
So that's something that it was probably that creative license within that depiction, but you could definitely see that she was impacted by her experience of traveling, all over the South at that time.
Rich. That's extremely rich. You listen to the song now, and for me, it's as melodic as it is. It's haunting.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It still has that power.
Yeah.
As I shared with you, it was something that I shared with. Something that I shared. I laughed because I remember the effect that it had on my peers. When I shared it during my training, we had to produce, we had to present, to do a presentation. It was an intercultural diploma in therapeutic counseling that second year, and we had to produce something. And because of the intercultural context, I wanted something rich to share, and something that really hit the core of what the movement of that time meant to people. And I shared it with my peers. Some yes were tearful, and it really touched their souls and their understanding of the psychoeducation, really, because some didn't know and haven't heard of it. But then there were those who were offended. Were offended that I shared something of that caliber, of that was so emotive. They couldn't see that it was the historical component, the historical meaning that it had for people of. I shared with you before. We often say people of color, but for me, it's now we want to come into that change. Something I read recently, coming into that change of language of we are people of a majority global community, so to speak. So
that's rich. That's
rich.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's rich. And just thinking the risk. The boldness, the bravery, the stepping out, the sacrifice that would have been, that Billy would have had to have taken and made in order to sing a song of such magnitude and of that nature, traveling town to town, not knowing what you're going to expect, half understanding you might, there's going to be backlash. But it makes me think of what Nina Simone says, who also sings that song. And, maybe people don't know, might think that it's her song. When she says that, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the duty of the artist is to reflect the times. And I think that really coincides with what we're speaking about, because as I said, in every struggle there's a soundtrack, every movement there's an accompanying message, and sometimes it's coded so the people who are in the struggle understand what's being said, and if you're not experienced it, you're not going through it, you might not understand, right? So then we kind of fast forward a little bit, and this is a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but then we have the civil rights, you know, and Aretha Franklin singing and, you know, encouraging others to get involved and get on board. Then I think of, you know, we touched on Vietnam last week and Marvin Gaye, you know, what's going on, you know, soldiers going to war, you know, going to Vietnam and coming, you know, being quote unquote maybe seen as heroes or less than, but coming back and, you know,
where's the parade?
Yeah, where's the parade?
No parades,
you know,
bro.
People becoming hooked on heroin, and coming back from the war field, the war zone, trauma, you know, PTSD, you know, picking up habits, you know, coming back strung out, you know, to a new war zone.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, starting from scratch, you know, not respected or received or welcomed.
Yeah.
And then you've got Marvin, who so eloquently writes this musical piece. What's going on?
What's going on?
Powerful album.
Yeah.
You know, if I think of Friendly Skies, that song. And if you don't know how to listen to music, he's talking about reaching that high that comes from, you know, heroin, you know, feet can't even touch the ground, you know, so we and then we got Curtis Mayfield and, you know, this rich music, the black, this era of black musicians, you know, singing and speaking about what is happening in the communities, giving the community a voice.
Yeah.
And then I think of Jamaica between 1970 to 1980. You know, the war that's going on in the community, the political violence between the JLP and the PMP, you know, Norman Manley, Edward Seaga, you know, political violence, people dying. It's so traumatic at the time. You've got, I remember there was a fire, and I think if I remember right, Orange Lane, and the violence is so out of control that people are shooting at the firefighters who are trying to put out the fire. So it's just bedlam, but heaved in, you know, political madness. And then you have Bob Marley, who's, you know, singing a song of, or songs of freedom, singing songs of uprising, singing songs of, you know, free yourself from mental slavery. Yeah. And in 1978, you have the Jamaican One Love Peace concert that takes place in Kingston, where all this madness is happening. And in the concert, you know, Bob Marley, you know, there was some reluctancy for him to actually do the concert because there had already been an attempt on his life, which he had survived. Yeah. And then at the concert, he brings both Norman Manley and Edward Seaga, both opposing parties together. And it's that famous clip of him skanking on the stage where it's almost like, for me as a viewer and a listener, it feels like the hand of God is on him. Yeah, lightning. And almost like Messiah type. Like, and then just how he bridges the gap in that moment. And we're not saying that moment of peace transcended and changed, but it shows you change the context of what was going on, but shows you the power of music. Indeed. And how, again, artists choosing to make music that reflects the times. Yes. You know, and then I think of Lovers Rock. You know, in England, that you know, young Black British artists. You know, Caribbean connections, you know, sharing their love for reggae. And then I think of, you know, the Thatcher years and John Major years, and when there's a massive push against immigration, and you've got, you know, your racist national parties, and however you got music like Acid and, you know, Jungle, you know, squat parties, jungle raves, bringing people together. You know, and I guess we skipped out the birth of hip hop. You know, in the 80s, like You know, me and hip hop are around the same age.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say. You said that.
Yeah. So, and from that, you've got the message that comes from, you know, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, again, documenting what is going on. So, music has always been synonymous, synchronized, connected, coincided with, you know, the struggle. And there have always been...
History, you know what just popped in my mind was history lessons. Because, you know, just thinking of Grandmaster Flash, you know, you say, what's one of the lines when he talks about, you know, glass on the ground, just growing up in New York, you know, just have the image. It was always rubbish everywhere. Always rubbish. You know, I'm talking the early 70s. And I said something earlier about the city itself. I say different metropolitan cities where there had been riots in the 60s had never recovered. So they had never rebuilt. They had never gone back in. If you know, if that's what that particular community wants to do to their community, then let it stay like that. So you know, those riots that happened in Watts and New York, you know, say Harlem, that happened in Detroit, and you know, just all over, DC. They remain the same. You know, the landscape of that concrete jungle was, you know, it was dilapidated. You know, you had empty houses boarded up, you know, and that's across many metropolitan cities. So what they're talking about there is that there's no restructure. There's nothing about the way that we are being treated today is any different to the way that you treated us back then. Yeah. You know, so that's, you know, that's my, you know, just thinking of, you know, you say the birth of hip hop and talking about what was happening at that time. That's what was happening. You know, there was a frustration. There was, okay, let us come with this thing that is new. Let us really describe to you what is going on for us. Let us take back our power. You know, whatever power we feel that we have this ability to tell you like it is. So listen to this.
Fight the power.
Yes.
You know, Chuck D.
Come on.
Public Enemy. Within, you know, within that. You know, again, the musicians, there are selected artists, chosen artists, I would dare to say, artists that have chosen to take up the mantle that I'm going to speak.
That's right.
You know, I'm going to speak out. I'm not just going to reflect the times, but I'm going to be the spokesman. And at times you run a risk of maybe, you know, not getting all the materials or the accolades or, you know, the finances that maybe some other people are getting because their message is different. And, you know, I think that sometimes there is that choice, you know, I'm going to make this.
But you see, you know, that's the deeper aspect of it, I feel, is we come back to identity and them knowing who they are. So I just think of, you know, like Ray Charles, I know you know, just reading his bio, reading, you know, seeing the movie, because there was some real references there, some true references of what transpired during the time. Him saying from the jump, I want my masters.
Come on.
Those masters are mine. You don't keep my masters. I'm setting the tone. You're right. So for those who knew who they are and keeping what belongs to them, to those who want to get their foot in the game, get their foot in the door, and then accepting what's presented to them. And once you accept what's presented to you, then you don't have any choice.
That's right.
And it's the same thing. You know, we're talking about this historical aspect of it. Just thinking of Muhammad Ali. You know, no Viet Cong ever called me the N-word. So as a result of that, he was ostracized. He what he had was taken from him. But he said, okay, let me reinvent myself. And you think about a man who perhaps didn't have a high school diploma, had a high school diploma, but wasn't, he perhaps had a ninth grade reading level. But such an articulate man, such a knowledgeable man, to be able to come over here and go to Oxford and Cambridge and give talks and go on Parkinson. Just watching those YouTube clips today is powerful to see his oratory and the way that he described the situation that was happening in the States at that time. And then, so what was happening in relation to music, in relation to what he was saying, Sam Cooke, what was the track there? A change is going to come.
Yeah.
So, with so many references, as we have alluded to, that just tell you that that there's power. There's power in the music, but you have to listen to the music. You have to listen to the words.
So with that, how would you say music has shaped you, impacted you? What's your relationship with music? Where did it stem from?
Well, as I said, I mentioned just briefly there, New York, and just remembering moms and them having them house parties and sneaking out the bedroom and seeing what was going on, it was, the Otis Redding and the, I mentioned Aretha, Curtis Mayfield, all of those people from, the stylistics, and my God, man, so many to mention. So
that's playing in your house.
Yeah, that's on the loop.
On
the loop. I can remember even in the summertime, opening up the back door, and this woman, she had this, I can't recall the track that she played on a loop, because it was Saturday morning. That's her cleaning day.
So we're talking vinyl.
Yeah, she played this track on the loop, and but the thing is, didn't tire of it. Didn't tire because of the depth of emotion from this track, the depth of the meaning. Was like, okay, we can just listen. We're gonna have to listen to it because everybody on the block can hear this. But it's so rich, and I think. From that time, going through the 70s, you mentioned, Marvin Gaye, mentioning the, but it's also that disco era as well. That was, for the people, to the people. What I mean? Donna Summer.
Yeah. Ooh.
That was, that was my girl.
That was his girl.
I say 76 as a 12-year-old, seeing so here's the thing. Wow, we're going to go there.
Yeah, we got there. Let's go there, Doc. Let's go there.
So just thinking about the powers that be, that had this beautiful, beautiful black woman who was sexy and beautiful in all of those superlatives, but the way that she was sexualized, and the thing of it, she didn't really like it, but because she put herself out there and they presented something to her, they presented something to her that was like, okay. This is how you get down. This is how you have to do it. We're talking about the power dynamic as well. Don't know who her agent was. Don't know who her manager was. But here's the thing. This is the power that you possess from what you're presenting. So you're gonna have to use that in order to make it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's. I guess I'm using my imagination to really depict about what would have transpired during that time. Thinking if we fast forward to the Me Too, Me Too, what could we hypothesize? You know what I mean? What could we come up with? But now, as a 12-year-old boy, looking at it with the
eyes poking out,
aesthetically, Millie Jackson.
Woo!
The raunchiness, the fortitude, because she was the flip side of it. She was telling you how she wanted it, how she liked it, what time it was. You don't have the power. this has the power. You better recognize. So it was. So Sister Sledge. All of these, that was my era. That's what I came up with. And what influenced me during those those formative years. The Whispers. All that, the R&B, the soul singers, the groups are so plentiful. But the thing there was always a message. There was a message, but there was the feel good aspect of it as well. Because if you are, if you have that ability to escape, it provided you that ability to escape from that 9 to 5, that being driven to despair. Then you have the weekend or the Friday evening to Sunday. Okay, let me spend my paycheck, and that's what I witnessed. That's what I watched. That's what I came up with. During that time, and as you intimated about 1980, the birth of hip hop. We touched upon it a little bit. Last week, just thinking of Run DMC, the way those dudes was rhyming. Wow, what? How do they, the 16 bars? How do they do that? As I say, trying it, as a 16-year-old, I can't get down with this. I don't know how they, but the how clever they were with their words, and how they came with a fresh look. And then, just thinking fast forward a little bit, and how that coincided with, Aerosmith, Walking This Way. This, man, come on, man. It's just so, that was the being around there, seeing how much ingenuity was around, how much these guys were just taking it to the next level and producing something that was, they said, this is ours. This is ours. You can't take this from us. And then, as we touched upon, it's a flash in the pan. They can't, the commentators saying they can't make no money from this type of thing. But we know differently today. We know differently.
Definitely know differently today in terms of hip hop and rap and largest selling genre music. And still standing. I think, I think of my my Walkman with the orange earphones.
Wow.
The little fluffy earphones with the little metal bar. Listening to Michael Jackson. I remember, I don't know how I got this tape, but I think someone lent it to me in primary school. It was a tape with acid music. I can just remember acid. And when I think of my house, so Mum would be playing her gospel tapes. The gospel was rich in the home. But I always remember there was this vinyl, this record player in the corner. And it makes me think Mum was definitely a vinyl collector at one stage. And I could just always remember this Luther Vandross.
Okay.
Vinyl LP that she had, and he's got the black leather jacket on, and he's smiling, and Luther played in our house, church, church gospel music, and I think top and a pop. So like now we have, if we want to access music, we can just go on YouTube or Spotify or Apple or but back then to watch music, you had to wait for Thursday, top and the pops to find out what was number one, and listening to music that was in the charts, and you had your radio. We listened to a bit of Kiss and Choice FM from time to time, but hip hop, rap, So I was a massive jungle fan, but I feel like fast forward, rap became for me. It became, what would I say? I just connected to it. There were people that looked like us, though they dressed different. But it just was fascinating, just hearing people depict their stories of childhood and, you know, what they had been through and what they were going through and their aspirations. And, you know, skilled writers could make you feel like you were there in Brooklyn, that you were there in LA, Compton, that you were there on the East Side, or that you were there in Shaolin with Wu-Tang. Just how they would, you know, create this imagery, you know. And I feel like, you know, my love for hip hop really grew, like, you know, maybe 95, 96. I'd say 96, 97, you know, just during some kind of like turbulent times for me. And just being able to connect to that music and, you know, helping me through some dark moments. I can remember, it's funny for me, I can remember, you know, timestamps in my life, what I was listening to, what project, you know, what albums I could connect to. And I think that's about 1999 is when let me try to do a bit of my own writing. And it was, you know, those moments of in confinement and just your tape recorder and your tape and listening to these albums that I started kind of writing my own music.
That sounds awesome, powerful for you to perhaps listen and be struck by the sign of the times, and saying, okay, I see where it's coming. I see where you're coming from. I see I see that you've had an experience. Let me write about. Let me talk about. Let me write about. Rap about my experience. And as a result of writing about your experience and rapping about your experience, you have created your own authentic voice, your own authentic voice that just comes through on the tracks that I've listened to, what you shared, and I've seen and witnessed, you know, the passion. You have your own thing going on, bro. But the thing is reminiscent. It is, I haven't seen it. It's reminiscent of back then. You know, you have it's like you have that old soul from the 70s, and you have that old soul that it comes across as back then, but in the now. In the now. So and for me, that's not that tells me that you have a gifting, and as believers, and we can say that, and we can be real, that your gifting has made room for you. So just some encouragement and affirmation, because it brings it all together, because we're talking about, you're talking about the movement, we're talking about messages, and as a result of the messages that you've heard and how it has impacted upon you, it has given you and galvanized you to do something, to put out a message for the people today. You know?
It's funny you said it. Someone said many years ago I had an old soul.
Right.
Someone that was much older. I was like, you got
what
an
you
old
saying,
soul.
bro?
I say nothing. There's no ageism here. No ageism. We are inclusive. But no, I remember someone saying I had an old soul. Yeah. And it had been said even in my teens. You know, I was having a conversation as well with a friend, older brother than me. And we were just having a conversation about the 90s and so forth. And he was like, even back then, you had an old soul. You had an old soul. Yeah. So what are you currently listening to now, or
it's gospel now?
Yeah.
It's having become born again, from the mid 2000s to present day, it was definitely a shifting. But from the 90s to the mid 2000s, it was hip hop, it was rap, it was I was a real Tupac. Tupac was my guy, type of man, and even when, and I guess I started to come away a little bit because of. I know he was from the West. He went east, but then came into some some issues, some difficulties, and then he switched.
Yeah.
California Love and all of that kind of stuff coming out, and I just think that this beef that was going on East against West, and that's the thing, we tend to lose our way sometimes, and within us giving off these or telling our messages, we lose our way, and then it turns into something else. So you have the upliftment, what it can do. We know what the power of music can do, but we know that it can also be divisive. And bring and bring out the very best in people and the very worst in people. So I think we have to put that out there as well, and be cognizant of that. We, as you say, people have Nina Simone saying, have a responsibility, accountability,
100%,
accountability, and not losing sight that that is something that you're going to be liable for. You should be liable for, I believe. Because if you're putting something out there that has this negative energy, and that it could potentially turn people into something that perhaps they weren't, on that trajectory to become. Those who are perhaps easily influenced, who are vulnerable in that particular regard. I think some may disagree, but I think that from my standpoint, my experience, and what I've seen and witnessed, I think that there is a correlation for some, not all.
No, I hear that there is a responsibility, and I guess just as you were talking, and we have been talking about music, and we have kind of spoke about what was going on at certain points, certain movements, and I think what comes to me is that we don't have to be musicians to convey a message, and I think, for the listeners and even for ourselves, what movements are we aligning ourselves to?
Well said, yeah.
What movement do we want to be? And then with that, what message do we want to convey? So if your life is a movement, in what direction do you want to be moving in? What do you want to be known for? What do you want to, what is it? What are you putting out? And what is the message that you're conveying? So you don't need a stage. You don't need a microphone. You don't need a tour manager or a tour boss. You don't need to be in a studio. But just for the listeners, even for ourselves, what movement are you representing, and what message are you conveying? And that could be in your home with your family. That can be in your workplace. That can be whether you own a business or you're branding or whatever you're putting out. But ultimately, I think as individuals, we looked a lot at the macro. If I bring it down to our world and to our listeners, music is powerful, but your life is a song. And if your life was a song, what do you want to be playing? What do you want people to hear? What do you want to be known for? What message are you conveying with how you choose to live your life? And how I and you choose to live your life. So that's kind of like a little bit of a flip, but I think it's always important for us to look at ourselves and just kind of leave a little food for thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think you've really encapsulated what we've discussed today. About music and the messages therein and what they mean and the meanings that we attach to them. But also, I think what I heard, what you just shared is legacy. And I think that there's even what we're doing today, what we've done for the past 6 sessions, this one being the 7th one, is this is going to be part of our legacy, and it's something that we're doing that's altruistic, because it is, we have a love for people, I believe. We have a love for what we do, and being representatives of our community, and being able to share, a part of ourselves and what we do day in and day out. So beautifully said.
So I guess that's where we land, right?
That's where we land, brother. That's where we land.
I'm taking away the power of music and how it just can evoke memories. And yeah, I can't live without music. I need it. And just taking away just feeling a real sense of peace as I'm kind of, as we kind of landing and ending here.
Yeah. Likewise, I think it's the historical context in which we've looked at music and movements, and how it's tailored us as a people, but as individuals. So it's the collective resonance and the individual resonance that is that's made us who we are today. And you saying that you can't live without it, and likewise, I guess just thinking of it from a spiritual perspective today, listening to gospel music, and you making that reference to King David, he was, dancing. And here's the thing, he was dancing to such a degree that his wife was like, why are you showing off like that? Why are you showing out like that? He was like, well, it's such a joy in my heart for the Lord that I know that he is enjoying seeing me do what I'm doing here. 100%. A blessing to be here and to be able for us to share our love of music and what it means to us.
And I know there were lots of artists and movements that we missed out. So but just some that really jumped out at us. So till the next session, please ensure that you subscribe, and follow, give us your feedback, leave any comments, and do share with anyone that you think would enjoy the podcast. Till the next session, blessings, peace
and love.